Shut up and sit down.
Hey! The car main battery's flat! We gotta go back!
Old boy, rode it my whole life.
You are listening to the Dialed Podcast with the not-so-aerodynamic Matt Legrand, Evan Price, Lance Hepler, and Jake Von Turing. Enjoy.
Down hillsides.
Watts, bonk, slam, snap, off, tempo, chamois, carback, endo, cadence, hammer, fondo, arrow, threshold, breakaway, century, peloton, and VO2 max.
On my bicycle, singing my song. On my bicycle ride.
Choose your arch enemy from the following list: mountain biker, triathlete, clueless cyclist, motorist, pothole, or gluten.
On our bicycle ride, everyone's out alone sometimes, but it's better to have a companion ride. Everyone's out at night goes wrong sometimes.
Own the road. Motorists will be more than happy to share the road with an environmentally conscious and active citizen like yourself.
Hey, get a car.
Hi, and welcome back to the Dial Podcast. I'm Jake Von Turing. I'm here with Evan Price.
How's it going, guys? You know, this is we like to be completely, I'd say, transparent on this, and we had a first try, and Matt nailed a joke in that one that he's going to try again. He's going to try again, and let's see if it hits as well.
Here's the joke.
Let's hear it.
I don't even know how.
We were just talking about I just got married.
Evan's married.
Yeah, so I have a ring on my finger.
And now there's whole. I can't do it. It was something about having.
Let me try it for him. Let me try it for him.
Single women that listen to the Dial podcast, looking for love in all the wrong places.
It's basically four married guys, and we know that most of our crowd listening to this podcast are single women. I'd imagine.
Women.
Yes, exactly.
And
exactly.
And the hearts are broken.
Yeah. And Matt thinks it's because of him, but it's probably because of Lance.
It
so
could be.
Yeah.
Could be. See, that's how good the joke goes to the second round.
It nailed it. I think that was just as funny.
Devin's left, Matt Legrand.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? You guys are looking good, looking sharp today.
Yeah.
Looking golden.
Golden. Yes.
Golden rings.
I know, right?
New
ring
rings. Shiny.
I don't think you stopped playing with it since he sat down at the table.
New sensory integration things. Yep. I do. The joke for anybody who knows me is I have really poor sensory integration, which means I hate things on my hands.
Yeah.
I hate things touching my feet, so I'll walk on my toes if I'm on stuff. And now I have a ring on my finger that I'm messing with 24/7.
Evan's built-in fidget spinner right there.
Exactly.
I was worried.
Exactly.
I was like, same thing. I was like, I do not like rings or things like that.
Hate
And
things on my hands.
I was fine.
Yeah. I don't even like cycling gloves.
Yeah.
They drive me nuts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So I was able to get used to a wedding ring. So, and same thing, I was like, well, my older brother was able to do it, so I should probably. That's like how if you have an older brother.
Yeah, you're like, well, we have the same genes, so you know.
Same. You're like, if he can do it, I can probably do it. That's the way I look at things in life.
Last but not least, Lance Hepler.
Hey, it's Lance Romance, all you single ladies out there. I am not your man. I am also happily married, so. Sorry.
Hey, Lance. Where you at?
What's up, guys? I am still in Sun Valley, Idaho. We've been here for the last week enjoying the mountain air, which is beautiful and crisp and fantastic. So we're still in the Sawtooth mountain range.
Oh, nice.
So
you were in a hot spring yesterday, weren't you, Lance?
We were, yeah. I was it was about 80 miles away or something like that. We went to a little spot where there's this Craters of the Moon monument, national monument. It actually it was very much like Kona, actually, with all the lava, but without the humidity. So it was kind of nice.
That actually sounds like heaven. That sounds amazing.
But on the way back, we found some hot springs and we went for a dip because usually when you find a hot spring in the wild, there's 50 other people in it. So we happened to find one with nobody in it, which was kind of nice.
Did you keep your pants on?
Yeah, no way.
But did you find any rocks?
I declined to answer that comment. Let's see. Yes, we did find some rocks, of course. There were some lava pieces that came home with us.
Nice. How's the coronavirus treating you?
How's our favorite super spreader doing?
It was about a week, maybe a week ago.
Spreading it all over the middle of nowhere in Idaho.
I think you're similar to my wife. You're about a week past it now, maybe.
I'm about a week past like the worst of the symptoms. Yeah, and so I'm still exhausted, which has been interesting. I just really have very little energy, and my lungs still aren't right. But I don't have a fever anymore, and I'm sleeping okay, and I'm coughing a little bit, but not like ugly productive cough, like is what it's.
You're still smoking a pack a day, roughly.
You can tell my voice is still like an octave lower, which makes me feel even sexier if it's possible.
Sexy.
But yeah, so I'm on the mend, but still not right. So,
well,
thanks for asking.
Yeah, got out on your bike though, but we'll talk about that in a minute. That's good. It's not perfect, but it's good. It's a step in the right direction. Hey, you guys want to back pedal?
Yep.
You want to go first, Matt?
Sure. I rode with the Jake Von During yesterday.
Yeah.
In 95-degree heat.
Okay, so Jake sabotaged my bike. He waited until we had to climb up Lacamas Lane Hill, which is a beast of a hill on the mountain bikes.
Yeah.
And then he kept like just, tweaking my brakes. I don't know what he was doing, but then all of a sudden he, pulled up the hill and he looked back like confused on why I'm struggling. We get up to my house and I'm like, something's wrong with this brake. I spin it and it's like you had to like push like hard to get
the wheels there,
to move at all. And he was like, no, just spin it. And I'm like, I'm trying. And it just like went nowhere. So I brought the mountain bike in today to be looked at.
Yeah. Was it like that when we started?
Did you just lay it down once accidentally?
No. I think it's just gunked up. That's my theory. So
it was
doing a job taking care of the
pads were all like just bound up on the rotor. Not happy times. We'll make that thing right for you.
But that's the only reason that Jake was able to beat me to the top of the climb.
That's fast right now.
Other than that, he was quite scared. You could tell he was scared.
That is a climb for mountain bikes. That is for sure.
Yeah, we did just easy cruise here to trail. It was hot.
Nice.
We went in the middle of the day on the hottest day of the year so far.
Got to get that heat acclimation in. This is just suffer for 2 weeks and your body will be fine.
It was probably close to 95. That's hot. It was warm.
Yeah, it was.
It's hot out there right now. Like I just got done with my run. I was like, yep, that is, I think was up to 94. So
how was the weather in Hawaii?
It is very humid in Kona, and I, just out of respect for being a nerd triathlete, decided to really run a good portion of the run course out there, like the Energy Lab. The Energy Lab area is...
my back pedal can be done. I swam, and biked a little. It's fine.
Did you swim at Fallen Leaf?
Yep, I've been swimming out there. It's great.
Nice. I need to...
It's actually really nice. Do it now before the water gets questionable.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, our Sunday swims are going to be... Horseshoe, and then I think Thursday I might start swimming at Fallen Leaf.
Okay, that's great. I'm in. I need to do lots of stuff because I want to test a whole bunch of watches.
Yes,
so.
We just strap a bunch of watches to me. Absolutely.
Fun. Okay, so wait, Kona, did you ever go after that little KOM split?
We're segueing into my
backpedal,
Mr. Here we go.
Backpedal it.
There was that. Remember we talked about that KOM split on like out at the Energy Lab.
Yeah, Energy Lab. My brash confidence there was complete. So I decided. Dashed. I decided on my honeymoon and this last week leading into the wedding, I kind of I'm not really going to call it an off season. I brought back my training intensity a little bit down to like 18 hours both weeks, which is for me right now, anything under 20 is going to be a pretty low volume week. So I did a lot of running, mostly just because I love running and that's just what I want to do in my off season. But when we're in Kona and I decided I'm going to run every single day, which I did. And I was like, we'll treat this as like getting used to heat. So it says it's in the 80s there, but what you got to understand is Kona, so anybody who's running Kona here knows it's like 80% humidity every single day, all day. Like it is 80% no matter what. So I liked it because it did force you to like, oh, you got to pace right or you're going to really be in trouble by the end of your run. Every single run, I was drenched in sweat.
Did your shoes like squish?
Oh yeah,
I remember that. It was so bad.
Gross.
I
mean, me and Cassie joked the entire week was we were just being island people. I was 100% an island boy running in short shorts and no shirt. Yeah. I would not wear a shirt in that. I mean,
the thing about the shirt is it'll soak up sweat.
Oh yeah.
Otherwise, it's going into.
And then you're just carrying an extra 2 pounds basically at that point. But yeah,
either way, it's gross.
Elite Drive is beautiful. I mean, that Kona is, I'm not sure, can it be underrated? I don't know, but I feel like it was underrated.
Really?
Yeah, because
I
anybody
kind of
who's
have
like,
that vibe too, where I'm like,
Yeah.
it's Kona. I'm not sure I want to
yeah,
go
and that's
there
like
it's
people who were like, oh, the writing's not that good. I thought the writing was amazing. I mean, yeah, like on Queen K,
right.
yeah, there's going to be people flying by in their cars by you, but it's not that bad. Like,
Right.
you have a massive shoulder on the Queen K. It's a huge shoulder, and so we did 3 rides. We rented bikes for 3 days. First day, we rode on a Le'i Drive, which was beautiful because you're just riding by beaches and a beautiful coast. Then the second day, we did Mauna Kea. So anybody who's ever fought, so like Vegan Cyclist Impossible route, if anybody's, he went up the backside of Mauna Kea. Mauna Kea, the whole climb, now there's obviously debate on this, is one of the hardest climbs in the world. It is insane.
It's steep and long.
It's 10 miles long, or maybe 11. 10 miles or 11 miles long, with a middle 2 or 3 miles that are gravel, and the average percentage is 10%.
Oh, wow.
So I wanted to try to do the whole thing, and we got cut off at the visitor center, me and Cassie, because they closed the road up from the visitor center. So we made it to about 7 miles up Mauna Kea.
That's really pretty good.
It was 7 miles at 9% average, and there's a middle portion that's 1.5 miles with I think it was a 13 or 14% average. So anybody who knows who Drake Drool is, does anybody know who Drake Drool is? He's a guy who's been kind of going back and forth. Thank you.
Duel.
Yeah. Lance, he's the guy who's been going back and forth with like Phil Guyman's KOMs, basically.
He has, yeah.
Yeah, so Cassie's making fun of me because in my head, so I split the climb and I knew what Drake's time was up the 10K portion.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I want to try to get close to Drake's time up this.
So you were, yeah.
Granted, Drake did the whole 10 miles. I was going for the 7 miles. So I'm doing 70% of what he's doing. I thought I was right on him. I was about 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes slower than him, but in my head I was close. So it's
there you go.
Yeah, great carrot when you're close.
What?
And I think Drake started from the ocean, and you started halfway up the road.
He did sea to stars route, Lance. Which Lance, if you ever want to do that route, so Josh wants to go and do sea to stars one day. That is, I think it's like 120 miles with like some absurd amount of climbing in it. Like it's insane. But anyway, that was Mauna Kea's absolute blast. They closed the road because they're shooting sheep from helicopters up there.
Really?
Which was kind of fun. So the guy, when I got up to the visitor center, I literally had like a 1/4 mile left in the KOM.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like breathing hard, and this guy's sitting there with this truck and these signs blocking. I'm like, dude, can I go like a 1/4 mile up the road? He's like, no, you can't. I'm like, I almost wanted to be like, yeah, but the KOM says I need to go.
Don't you know who I am?
Yeah, I was like, buddy, this is really important. No, so he tells me, he's like, no, we're studying invasive species up there. And I couldn't even process what that meant. I was like, oh, okay. So I just like turned around. Cassie made it up. She was pumped. And then we went back down, had a good day. And later we go to drop the bikes off and we tell the guy, we're like, man, we want to do the whole ride, but they closed the road off at the visitor center. And he kind of laughs for a second. He's like, oh man, they're shooting sheep up there again. Like, what? He's like, oh yeah, man, they fly helicopters around there and they pick off sheep. We're like, are you
super weird?
So I start Googling that. He's 100% right. That's actually what they're doing on Mauna Kea because sheep are apparently like an invasive species up there. But
interesting.
But yeah, outside of that, fast forward to, we had a blast, a lot of beach stuff.
What bike did you get to rent?
I got to rent a Cervelo. Oh God, I forget what's the aluminum frame Cervelo?
Well, they have like
the road aluminum.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or something.
So, yeah.
Well, they have
like
an R series and an S series.
Yeah.
I think it was the R series, if I remember right.
Okay, that's their climber, whatever.
Yeah, it was a nice bike. I mean, for a rental, that place, Bike Works in Kona, is amazing. Anybody going to Kona, go to Bike Works. Cool. They were incredible. But last day, we get to race the P-Man Biathlon, which is a like almost 40-year-old race in Kona.
You did a race while you were there?
Oh yeah, our last day. Cassie looked it up. She's like, "There's a swim run race. Let's do it right before the flight." So we jump out there. It's a blast. Like this local race has like 40 years of history to it. The guy who started it still runs it. Like he still does it each time. Wow. It's like 100 people just show up, hop in the bay. There's no structure to it. You literally finish a race. They hand you a popsicle stick with your place. Then you sign your name on a board.
I love races like that.
It was just like a nostalgic triathlon. Like, perfect. Man, this is perfect. This is amazing. I got second, actually, got beat by just this 17-year-old absolute baller who's this kid who's a very good high school swimmer who's also been running cross country the last 2 years and is a very good cross country runner already. I had to run like what I close in. I think I was looking. I closed in like 5 flat to almost pull him back in, but this kid was out ahead of me, and we had about 10 seconds.
In the water.
Got me in the water, and I could not bring him back in the 2-mile run. So
I was only 2 miles.
Yeah, it was like a 600-yard swim by a 2-mile run. So it was a pretty fun race, actually.
Super short for you.
Yeah, I wore socks too. I mean, most of the time you probably shouldn't wear socks in a 2-mile run, but I didn't want to have blisters.
Well, and there's probably sand everywhere. Who knows?
Yeah, but it was a blast. Oh my gosh, that was so fun to do a race like that. But yeah,
was that on Saturday?
That was Sunday. That was Sunday morning before we flew out.
Oh, maybe that was. I remember telling you about that.
Oh,
Mike,
we were
talking. Is Evan home yet? When's he coming home?
Yeah.
Like, he's like, well, I think
Sunday
he's already
at like
home.
like one.
No, I just saw him do a post to swim, and
yeah.
I don't know.
He was like, he swam this morning there in Hawaii, and I was like, oh, I thought he was already home.
Time zones blew my mind. We left at like 11 a.m. and then got back at like 1 a.m. of last night. Then slept. Our house was like 92 degrees when we got home. So
toasty.
Slept downstairs.
Dry heat though, it's totally different. Yeah.
Oh, today's run felt fine compared to Kona. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
Hey, Lance Hepler.
Yeah.
Backpedal, dude.
Oh, here I am. Well, I'm still here in the Sawtooth Mountains in the Wood River Valley near Sun Valley, Idaho, Ketchum, Idaho. I did manage to get on my bike a few times. I've rode gravel and some mountain bikes, and there's been some good stuff. I did this great ride one day from Alturas Lake all the way back to Ketchum, which was like 45 miles and like 3,000 feet of climbing. It was way more than my body was prepared to do, but we were, Brandon and I were kayaking, paddleboarding out on this beautiful mountain lake, and I said, hey, would you be okay if I rode home instead of just driving back? And she's like, what? No, you're not ready for that. Yes, go ahead. You might die and I can collect the life insurance. So I jumped on my bike and rode back and had a great time. I went quite slowly, which was good.
Smart.
But other than that, we've kind of been taking it easy. We went out to Craters of the Moon. I think I mentioned that earlier. And we rode through these lava fields. It's a national monument out there, and then went to some hot springs for a nice little dip. And so it's been a decent few days out here. So we're just kind of trying to enjoy the weather, but that's not enough for me.
That's not a bad way to have COVID, Lance. I mean, of all the ways to have COVID, I think hot springs recovery is pretty good rehab.
I've been lucky. We're in a place where I can stay away from people, even though I'm not infected anymore. I don't think I'm not positive anymore, so I'm safe to be around people. But it's been a rough go. My goodness, it's been a rough go. So, but
poor dude.
Enough of me.
We're sorry, my man.
Yeah.
I'll backpedal real quick so we can get on with the show. I had another week that was just like the week before that. That was like the week before that. The only caveat was 2 things. I actually broke 10 hours finally. Almost 11 hours of training last week, which is good for me. Trying to get the volume up a little bit so that I can try and be, I don't know, a little bit faster, maybe, ? We'll see. And the other good thing is we finally got to have a Fog Hat Friday ride. We were 0 for 4 to start the year because of rain happening every single Friday, and that's a fair weather ride. So we finally got to have that, and it was awesome. We had, I think it was about 30 people show up to that ride, and everybody had a blast, and it's good to see everybody. Good times. Moving on.
Moving right along.
It's the lead out news, and I don't. It is the
Champ Bailey top 5. I think he's in the top 5 discussion. I mean, I'm not just going to go out crazy.
Champ Bailey, are you out there?
Champ Bailey is here. The only race that I know that actually happened this last week was the Oregon Trail Gravel Grinder, one of Chad Sperry's events in and around the Bend, Oregon region. 5 days of gravel stage racing. It's more like gravel summer camp than anything else. A lot of big hitters came on the men's side after 5 days of racing. Christopher Blevins ended up winning. He barely eked out a win from Peter Stetina. I believe, who was third? Finsky. Russell Finsterwald was third. So there were some big names that came. On the women's side, Sophia Villafanoni, I think I just butchered that name. Who won Unbound. She was also at the Oregon Trail, and she won. She took first. Sarah Sturm was racing and took second in that race. So a lot of good people came and showed up. So lots of fun. So that's all that happened on racing, as far as I know. But in Tour de France news, a bunch of stuff happened. You have other stuff?
We should talk about the tour.
Le Tour.
Yes.
Real quick to go back to the Oregon Trail. Yeah, Oregon Trail
Gravel Rider.
That's it. They said it came down to a gentleman's sprint at the end. Can you define that? What in the heck is a gentleman's sprint?
Don't you have to shake hands prior to a gentleman's sprint?
Gentleman's
Well,
sprint.
You have to nux or, shake hands.
So Blevins and Stetina couldn't really drop each other. They were both trying to drop each other on the final climb, and they were within seconds of each other for the overall because they'd been finishing within seconds of each other. And so when they basically said, okay, let's quit attacking each other on the downhill and quit attacking each other on the uphill because we're both so evenly matched, and we'll just sprint it out at the end. So that's what they meant by gentleman's sprint.
All right.
But Blevins out sprinted Stetina every single time. So it was kind of funny, except for the very last day when I think somebody else won on the last stage, but it didn't matter. So I think that's what it meant. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Tour de France. What's going on there?
Okay, so
I just got
news,
caught up this morning.
Yeah.
I do nothing until this morning.
The biggest news that came out today was the people who aren't on the team rosters that didn't make team rosters. On Quickstep team, Mark Cavendish did not make the 8-man roster.
Which
Julian, yeah,
I think it's crazy because I think we talked about this in the last podcast where we were like, even all of us were like, no, he's not going to win any more stages. But
he just won the British National Championship.
Yeah, I know he's doing really well, and he's still a good marketing tool for these companies.
Yeah.
Like you just bring them.
I think they had this other sprinter on the team, Fabio Jacobsen, and so I think they just said, I don't want to have two sprinters. Let's just focus on one. And Fabio is in better form than Cav is. I don't know what the reason was, but Cav didn't get picked, and neither did Julian Alaphilippe, which is also kind of amazing.
It's very surprising.
Well, he's coming off of an injury. Which one was it? One of those one-day races where he got thrown into the creek or something like that and broke his scapula and stuff?
Yeah. Liège-Bastogne Liège. He had broken ribs and a collapsed lung.
And he's even said that he wasn't in his best shape in the spring. I mean, he was, quotes, I mean, so if you can't bring Julian as a stage threat or as a GC outside contender, I mean, there's no reason to really bring Alaphilippe then. So just save him for the Vuelta or just have him focus on the Vuelta.
I wonder if he'll do that, though.
I'm not sure if he will or not, but I'm saying, he's still not in shape enough to... I know these are the names that we know, but everybody knows the Tour de France is the best 75 riders in the entire world. Yep. I mean, if you're an elite rider, sure, but if you're a little off your shape, you're going to get dropped and you're not going to get any results in this race. I mean, this race is insanely hard. Yep. So you can't we've seen big names before come into this race kind of out of shape. We've seen Peter Sagan come into the race, not himself. We've seen Christopher Froome come into the race, definitely not himself. And I mean, they just get spit out. So it's, if you're a team and your goal is to get results, you got to get results.
Take the best guys with you.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, Peter Sagan, him and his team are in the race. Yep. He will be there. However, Bora Hansgrohe, Sam Bennett, their sprinter from 2 years ago, did not make his squad.
Sam Bennett?
Wow. Sam's had a rough last 2 years, though. Yeah. He's had a very rough last 2 years.
Huh.
Yeah. Yes, he's not dropped off last year because of injury. Yeah, so he didn't make his team either. So
what is up with these sprinters? I mean, you look at like a Marcel Kittel, too. It's like some of these guys are just like flaming out quick. It's like they get a couple of years.
Burn out. Yeah. Forever.
Yeah.
Kittel. Yeah. I'm saying like it just kind of like it's like these big time stars. Yeah. But then you look at a guy like Christoph. What is he like? 80. I mean, that guy has been good since the 90s, I think. I mean, he's been around always. And look at even like guys like Caleb Ewan, Cavendish, they've been around for Caleb Ewan's a younger version of that, but they've been solid for a while. Some of these guys are real flame outs, like a couple of years, then boom, they're gone.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
It's a violent sport. Yeah.
What else you got there, champ?
That's all I got, other than the Bahrain victorious riders. There, a few of the riders and staffers' homes were raided by the police last night.
No.
Yep.
Yeah, no word as to what was found or why they were doing it or which riders they were raiding, but there was like a multitask concerted effort to raid several houses.
You're
all at
telling
once.
me that a team that trains in countries that did not have organized drug testing might have been doing drugs the last 2 years?
There's
I
all,
don't believe
all
you.
speculation.
These raids were conducted over several countries.
Really?
Yes, it was all
Is it all the
coordinated.
countries they weren't testing
Slovenia,
in?
Poland, and Spain.
Slovenia?
Yeah.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
I think we know three very successful Slovenians over
They
a
want-
Who's the third?
Well, you have who's the
Jonas-
guy who's
Jonas
been
Finger.
winning breakaways.
Oh, I don't know.
Super low cadence rider, big strong guy, won a couple.
Oh, the guy that used the dropper post?
Yes.
Okay.
What's his name? What's his name?
I'm drawing a blank right
Oh
now,
my
just
God!
like
What's
you
his
are.
name? This is terrible.
Mahoric.
Thank you,
Yes.
Mahoric. Thank you.
Yeah, gotcha.
He's for sure clean.
You got Roglic.
Oh, yeah.
He's very clean.
I don't think
He dropped the
Roglic
whole
or
field.
Pogacar are going to get busted.
Yeah.
You don't think so?
That would be a huge story. Either of those
You don't
guys.
think so? Okay,
No, they
well
won't get busted.
here's how this may cascade. Here, let's go down the rabbit hole of conspiracy theories.
Let's.
If they raid
Suspicious.
Bahrain, let's be honest, if they're operating out of Slovenia's not a big country. How many docs do you think are dosing out in Slovenia?
Good question.
A few. If they find records,
Yep.
they are going to connect dots. They're smart enough to connect dots.
Would
now.
they use a lesser team like that? Not that they're a lesser team. Well, they are a lesser team.
Scapegoat? Absolutely, they
To
would.
get to
Absolutely, they
like,
would.
hey, we'll let you off if you tell us.
if you give it. Well, but here's the thing is, I mean,
You're
the
think- you're
UCI
assuming
can't
that-
take this again, so they'd be like, Pogača, are you sure? Are you sure?
I don't see his
Positive.
name on that list.
I don't see his
It
name.
looks like it's spelled like Pogača,
Yeah.
but it's just
I
it's
see
a different-
Pogače, I
it's
think
a
is what I
different
see.
person.
Yeah,
Totally
no, he's a
different.
Conti rider out in Italy.
Oh yeah, no. No, I imagine that these doctors that do this for the tour people don't put any documentation together.
Well, they also use code names. That's
Right.
like a big
something,
thing.
right? Like
Yeah.
you can't. There's no way.
It's like Timo Reed is going to be his name.
So, is it fair that we settle this once and for all? This bet that you two had,
Wait, what is the bet?
Bernal.
Egon Bernal.
He could still show up. He could still show.
We don't know. Give him. How many days do we have? We're down to 4 days till the start of the
4
tour.
days.
4
Yeah,
days.
I
will
think-
not admit defeat until these next 4 days are done.
Yes, you come over and bring wine, and my wife and I want to do some sort of fancy
Like
dinner
pizza
for
or
you
something
guys
like that?
because we missed your wedding. So
Deal. Okay.
I mean, we blew off your wedding.
I'll bring
We want to do something for you guys, and we have like
I'll
wedding
bring the
gifts for you
wine.
and stuff.
I'll bring
that
the
we-
wine if
yeah.
Bernal does not start.
Okay.
If he does start, I'll also bring the wine. So
Do you guys
something?
I don't know how this works. I mean, I suppose they could, but do you think that they could make changes all the way up until like the day of the race or the
don't
night
know how that
before the
works
race?
either.
Like, could they substitute somebody? Like, somebody gets sick, can you swap them out? Or
And with COVID,
I'm sure
I
they could.
imagine.
I'm sure they could.
Yeah, I bet you they can. And it's something like that is going to happen with how much COVID is going around. So
Gotcha.
Rules are meant to be bent. So yeah.
Do you see how solid the Ineos team is right now?
yeah,
Why
Yeah,
would
they're a very
they're-
deep team
they're-
right now.
They're deep, so why would they bring on Bernal, who
Also-
doesn't have a race day in his legs yet?
Yeah.
So he's not coming, Evan.
I
He's
so
not
I so
if they
hope
sub someone, it's not.
I
Gonna
so
be
hope
Bernal.
I'm wrong here, but I'm looking at I agree with you. Ineos is really deep right now, but like this looks like it could be a boring tour. GC
No,
wise,
the first week is going to be.
the
a
green jersey is going to be the
massacre.
most exciting thing.
I agree.
By far,
I
the
said
green
that.
jersey is
I
going to
said
be
the same thing last
yeah,
week.
The green jersey is what I'm watching this race for, and stage wins. Like that's it.
We threw out your picks for you
Oh, you did.
during the podcast last week.
Okay, good. Yeah, I mean
they're all
they're-
solid.
they're incredibly
Cavendish,
boring,
though,
but that's
you're-
probably what's going to happen.
No, but your sprinter Cavendish pick,
Oh, I nailed it.
he's no show. He's not showing.
I'm correct there. Bardet, I actually think is going to be a very, very
Froome,
competitive over the
Froome
polka
is
dots.
your
GC
GC
guy.
leader.
Yep.
And he's got a history of winning it. So
This
How
is
funny would it be if we had to come back and eat our words on all of
I
this?
would
Like,
love it.
Cavendish
I would
gets
love
like
it.
a
Oh,
last
if
second bid, and
Froome-
Froome comes and rides out of his mind.
if
and,
Froome rides out of his mind, for one, somebody raid his house because there's
Yeah.
something went wrong there, and two, good for him. That would be
for him.
so awesome to see
Way to do
Chris
the
Froome.
drugs.
Way to commit to it. If Chris
We
Froome
believe-
comes back,
I would.
And is
I'm kind of with
competitive.
you. I'm with
Oh,
you.
I would love to
whatever
see it.
drugs you need, buddy.
yeah,
You
that
just
first climb, there's only one guy I'm cheering for, Chris Froome. Hang on, man.
When's
Don't
the
worry.
first climb?
Pogacar's
When
not
is
that fit.
Like, have you guys looked at all the stages?
It's like
it's interesting. I know like there's time trial stage first.
I looked at the time trials.
In the first week, there's a cobble stage. There's some sort of big 10K bridge with like massive winds that they're saying could be very interesting. There's a whole bunch of
there's always a big crosswind stage early in the weeks. I mean, you look back to even the Lance Contador battles when there were some crosswind stages that caused massive issues.
And there'll be a ton of crashes. There'll be oil on the road. Or remember, like
the cobbles that somebody alive.
Soap on the road.
Yeah,
they're like one of the whatever little caravan things in front of the thing. We're just dropping soap everywhere.
I was seeing somebody who I definitely respect his opinion, knows a lot about the Peloton. He's talking about Danny Martinez right now for Ineos is very, very fit and has been quiet for a little bit.
Yep.
He's been deep in some altitude training, probably deep into using good stuff too. And I think I think a good, like, if you see any of those top three being Vingegaard, Roglic, and Pogacar crack at all, Danny Martinez will be a guy that can probably be right there. Vlasov's strong too, but I think Danny Martinez is the more dangerous of everybody. And he's got the team behind him.
Danny Martinez, he has odds to be in the top 10, even though he's on the same team as G. Thomas. And
I just don't think that G can. I mean, okay, every single time I say that G can't do something, though, he does it. But I mean, this is like
my pick for third on my
and
which is the kind of
with the cobbles and the
him.
tougher stages, a guy like G is pretty hardy. I mean, he's an experienced guy.
Well,
so
he can time trial. He can, I don't know, but he's just old.
Danny's the better pure climber. I mean, just when there's going to be those punchy moments when Pogacar is going to blow the doors off everybody, Danny's going to be able to stick with it better than G will.
Sure,
we'll see. All right.
Interesting.
It's gonna be fun.
We'll have so much tour talk.
Oh yeah,
next week tour talk.
I think we should like push our podcast back to like Wednesday next week so that we like talk about it and release the podcast on the same day, because otherwise I hate being like, oh, there's no way Froome can do anything, and then the next
2
day
hours
right
later.
after, and then we all look like idiots. And the show comes out and it's like, oh, great.
Do we need to change the format? Just do
I'd
it
be
daily
fine with we could do. Next week I could do a Monday Thursday actually. I could do Monday Thursday. They would need to be shorter, only tour talk on one of them. But
Monday's
I could do that.
4th of July.
Monday's 4th of July.
That's a transfer day.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah,
that's a good day then, because we can recap the days before, and then Thursday. I think we'll have a mountain stage before Thursday. Then
well, we'll figure something out. We'll have to talk.
We'll come up with it.
Should be fun.
There'll be a cobble stage before Thursday. Then, yeah.
Yep.
That
Cool.
cobble
Nice.
stage. I'm just worried about the carnage. Like I don't like watching bike crashes.
No, I don't want to lose a bunch of GC guys in that first week. It's like I want everybody there.
Make it through safe. Get to some fun climbing stuff.
Yeah.
That's what I want to watch.
Have an awesome cobble stage where like MVP and Wout go at it or something, and see a fun race.
Gotcha.
Right, let's get into our topic.
Mr. Champ, are you done?
Champ is out. He was out 10 minutes ago.
All right, let's jump into our topic for today. Guys, your equipment. We need to talk about some stuff. We need to talk about when you shouldn't be skimping out. We shouldn't. Need to talk about like not procrastinating on certain elements of your equipment, and when not to go cheap.
I'm going to go opposite of whatever you want for the topic, because here's the thing. First thing that comes to mind, bike components. You would think like buy the most expensive thing, but we're wrong. The 105 stuff from Shimano is really good.
Okay, I'm not talking necessarily about performance though. I'm talking about like
don't go
when to replace it.
Yeah, like check out this sweet set of Chinese carbon fiber wheels I got for
gotcha
$39. Found on the side of the road dead because wheels exploded. Hey, you know what? My chain, I'm getting so much life out of that thing, and it's stretched to a 1.5, but dang nabbit, it still pedals the bike, that kind of stuff.
Destroys
or
the
wheels and the frame to me are the two that's like,
be careful.
Whatever you are willing to risk. So if you get it for a screaming deal, you're probably, if I'm going 40 miles an hour downhill, I'll pay an extra $8,000 to make sure I don't die.
Exactly.
Whatever the price is. You just don't even care.
This all kind of spun out from just stories that I hear in general, but then it got me thinking, I'm like, well, dang it. I didn't cheap out. I didn't like skimp out, but I definitely procrastinated on a couple of things, and there's reasons for it. But I had some really nice tires, some Pirelli P0s that were fantastic, tubeless tires, and they worked really well. And then I looked down on them one day, and I'm like, oh, look at that little chunk of rubber that's missing. You can see the next layer of casing down there. I'm like, well, that's not good. I'm almost embarrassed to say how much longer I rode.
You're like, maybe it's a test thing. You're like, I want to see how far this thing will go.
Yeah.
I'm going to push it to the limit.
in my defense, it was the rear wheel, not the front wheel, but that can still cause all kinds of carnage.
It's still fishtail.
And the reason why I didn't change them out is I have a new set of wheels. It's almost becoming like
we didn't talk about Coeur d'Alene with wheel blowouts.
Yeah, and that was the other reason why I wanted to talk about this.
Who blew out in Coeur d'Alene?
We'll talk about that.
Maybe we should let your friends talk to you about their races before we break news to you.
I know of one person, but I wasn't in Coeur d'Alene. I was in Salem during a training ride. You're talking about poor John Hoffman right now?
Yeah.
I thought it was at Coeur d'Alene.
I thought it was at Coeur d'Alene too.
No, that was in Salem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, long story short is I had a set of wheels that were coming in from Hunt that I wanted to try out, and I had a brand new set of tires set aside.
British company?
Yeah. Okay. And I wanted to try out these wheels because we started carrying the brand and yada, yada, yada. So I'm waiting for these to come in. They got lost. And then they got stuck in customs, and then they got sent somewhere wrong, and then they got stuck in customs again, and yada, yada.
Wow.
I ordered these the last week of March. They were supposed to be here the second or third week of April, and here we are almost in July, and they're still not here. So I was waiting for that wheel set to come in to put these new tires on so that I could, not have to take them and put them on the wheels that I was riding and then switch them over again because it's tubeless and it's just a little bit of work. So I waited, and I waited, and I waited, and I'm like, I can't wait anymore because that chunk of rubber that was missing kept getting bigger, and there was other chunks that were coming out, and then I started to see it on the front tire. I'm like, all right, I can't do this anymore, knowing that I like to ride a certain way. I'm aggressive on the bike. I corner hard. I sprint hard. I don't want the bike to fail on me at 40 plus miles an hour, and the next thing you know, I'm broken down the shoulder or something. So that's what I'm talking about. That kind of stuff. Yep. And I procrastinated. Another story was, and the people that were on these rides with me will attest to it. I got to a point with the brake pads on my my gravel bike were pretty much gone. It was metal on metal. And
my road bike brakes are pretty toast. Speaking of this, I need to get those replaced now.
They were good, and then all of a sudden they weren't. And I would hit the brakes, and it was more notably it was the rear brake that was the problem. And I would hit that. It was so loud, it sounded like a freight train. It's like wah wah, and it was kind of a joke because we'd be riding down the trail. People were like, "Hey, on your left," and they couldn't hear us because they got the earbuds on. I would just tap the brake a few times, and they would jump and they would scoot over to the right. So it worked really hard. Yeah, good as an air horn, but
you could use an air horn or a bell or something like that, or your brake pad.
And then
lack of brake pad.
Other little things like, just don't procrastinate. But I want to hear your guys' stories. And if you think that there's a time and a place where it's okay to wait or to go cheap, if there are some use case scenarios, like, are you going to use like a no-name chain because you can't find the chain that you're looking for, and they say it works on your particular drivetrain? Are you going to go cheap and you're going to get that because that's what's available or because that's what was less expensive? Are you going to do that kind of stuff?
I'll say for me specifically, so there was, I think at this table, I might be the one guy who rode really consistently and hard when he was in college, right? Mm-hmm. Did anybody else ride? Lance? No. Well, no, Lance was doing his elite track level stuff at the Olympics at that point. So
that's correct.
So I'll make the joke that me without money did a certain thing, and then me with money did another thing. And it's funny because they were both different habits that actually worked at that time. So when I was an undergrad, I had my Allay that I was able to get through the bike shop I worked at. I was lucky enough to sometimes just get parts and pieces from the bike shop too. So I was really good at piecing things together at that time. I cared about speed, but didn't have enough money to buy speed. So what I did was I was always get gator skins. I would get them lightly used because we would have a recycle program at this bike shop, basically, where people, for whatever reason, would bring us stuff that was very lightly used. And they'd be like, we'd be like, do you want it back? And be like, no, just keep it or toss it. So we'd always keep it. So I had a pretty good way of assessing tires at that point. I'd always get gator skins because I knew we could get the most life out of them. So I never really paid for tires that way. That's always impressive. Had a really good discount on tubes. Yep. Components wise, I consistently cleaned my components when I had way less money. Very consistently cleaned my components to make them last as long as possible. Yep. Even people would bring in chains that they'd want to switch out, like their race day chain, and they'd give us a chain that was perfectly fine. Mm-hmm. I would use that. So I was good at being thrifty. So I think that there's two ways to answer this. There's, if you're not the person that, and there's plenty of people who absolutely cannot buy new tubeless tires every time they think oh man, these are wearing down a little bit. Mm-hmm. But then probably don't buy me and Jake both race on fast tires. Yeah. Now those don't last as long is the problem. So don't buy those. Make sure you go gator skins or go something that's really more durable. Make sure you're cleaning your components consistently. Now, when I had more disposable income and cared about speed more and more, that's when I got into the habit of if I ever brought the bike to Jake or anything like that, and we were like, this thing's a little more, it was just replace it. It's not a question of like, how much more life can I get out of this? Don't sit there and penny pinch when you can go down at 40 miles an hour. It's not worth it. If you have the disposable income, don't be, and I know plenty, I have very close friends who will do this too. They'll ride stuff out to the very end just because they're thrifty people by nature, which is good. But I did change those habits as I started to be able to, I cared about speed more and also not crashing. So, yeah. I mean, I went through crit seasons when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I'd ride on really old gator skins. And we would be crashing left and right. And it did come to the point where I was like, I'm not sure if it's crits or the fact that I ride old tires consistently. So it does come down to like, if you're going to be racing hard and fast and you have the disposable income, replace it when it needs to be replaced.
What's your guys' take on the guy that you're out on a ride with, and he's the one that you pretty regularly have to pull over because, hey, I got a flat, and then he's like going to change his flat. He pulls out the tube, and it's got like 7 different patches on it.
Don't patch your tubes.
He's patching
Come
that,
on. Yeah.
that $7 or $8 tube.
Tubes are like $7.
I'm okay with people patching tubes.
Kid patches tubes all the time. If you're listening to this.
I have no problem with people patching tubes. But when you see the guy with the 7 or 8 patches in it, and I've seen this so many times, and I'm always just like, and you know what? It is funny. It's like people that are fairly well off, like good, multi-millionaire people, and I'm like, love it. I love that you're just like super, super thrifty with that $7 for that new. And at the same time, it's like, if you have another flat on this ride, you're on your own, buddy.
Yeah.
Like,
so there's that where it's like,
it's fine as long as you're fine with riding on your own. You're like, I'm not stopping for you again, bud.
We'll stop once. You get one stop.
Are you guys going to feel comfortable riding on that tire with the patches all over it, knowing that you're going to be going down the side of a mountain at breakneck speed?
You don't follow that wheel.
Do you know what's more expensive than that $7 tube? As Jake would know, medical bills from a broken shoulder.
Medical bills.
Not happy times right there.
No.
What are some other, like the Chinese carbon wheels? Or the Asian carbon wheels that you're going to get from, some.
There's some guy
of them
on
are
YouTube.
fine.
It's interesting. I think it's hit
but I just don't
or
want to
miss.
risk it. Well, no, and that's the exact thing. It is hit or miss. Could it be fine? Sure, it could be great.
It's manufacturing with less confidence, right? Like this is the thing. Is like Envy wheels would cost, a third of what they cost if their, engineering tolerances weren't like extremely well defined, and and their reputation was dependent upon it, right? But like these Chinese wheels, you're going to probably, for every 5 you get that are good, you might get one that's not safe to ride.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some guy on YouTube who goes through a fair amount of Chinese wheels, testing them and riding Chinese frames and things like that. And he's kind of a big proponent of going for it.
He's risking his life out there.
And I'm just thinking, like, that's great. You do you. I'm not going to, maybe on something that I just was riding really slow, like a cruiser or something, but nothing that you would go 30 miles an hour on. Or
I still just buy a cheaper, safer aluminum frame and be okay with.
Aluminum frames are
I'm still a big proponent of those. Can be fast bikes. They're still plenty fast.
There's nothing wrong with them.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with them. I raced on years on aluminum
like 105
frame.
components. A
They're
105
great.
with aluminum frame component. Sometimes they'll do like a carbon fork with aluminum frame. It's like all that stuff. There's nothing wrong with
this
those
does go
bikes.
to me too. The guy with like a guy or gal with like a ton of disposable income, doing great, and you're like out there trying to save a buck on a $600 fast frame, quote unquote, that you're going to risk your life on. It's like, dude, just buy the aluminum frame then.
Yeah.
You're not trying to get on Ineos for the tour. Like, this is just buy the safer frame. Stick with it. It doesn't need to be the shiny and fastiest. It's
weight stuff. Like, come on, just skip. Because that's one of the major differences is weight, and it's like,
come on.
So plenty of races we've all been to. Yeah. How many people do you know finished a race and said, "Damn it, I lost that race because my bike weighed an extra half pound or a pound"?
No one.
It happens. I'm sure it happens. But how
I know
often?
people that'll say that. Is it true? No, it's not true.
But
if Evan had rented a carbon bike instead of aluminum bike, he would have got that.
I would have beaten Drake's KOM. Thank you, Lance. Exactly.
I do think that people.
My bike had a name too. My rental bike. It was named Ramses. They put on the side.
Cool.
And then Cassie's bike was Blumpkin. It was awesome. We loved those bikes.
I think that there are many situations, especially in triathlon, where you don't realize it, that something is costing you a lot of time, and it might be something super simple. Like the classic example is Andy Potts wearing gator skins and getting second in the
Kona.
Ironman World Championships.
Well, yeah.
And I guess time trial, that's where it's going to really shine and show that, hey, I spent a few extra bucks on speed and it paid off, and it could be, a few seconds, but you're going to be paying off the nose for that.
If you are Andy Potts, then that is absolutely worth the investment.
It was a big mistake for sure. Right?
Absolutely. Like, a huge mistake.
Between him winning and not winning.
Yes.
And then, there's aero helmets and, things like that where it's like, oh, if you, and I get it. Like, it's like, oh, that's a second helmet and all this stuff. But it's like, it's a big chunk of time that you get from wearing those helmets. There's a number of those situations in triathlon where
it's a pure time. I mean, it's you against the clock. So there's no,
you asked the question like, are there situations where this person would have, won or lost or whatever? And there's so many times in triathlon where that's the case.
Yeah. And I think that's probably the best example right there. Yeah. Of where that's going to shine or show off or show you that having that stuff is going to make a difference.
Does make a difference. And it's, it's sometimes little things like having a waxed chain versus sometimes it's not super expensive.
Yeah.
But it can be 10 watts difference. And you're like, okay, well, that's, it adds up, especially when you go long enough, like an Ironman distance race. Yep. So
what about like road racing and cyclocross and mountain bike racing? I mean, how many times can you think of that somebody in the amateur ranks lost like by a second because they had lesser components? I mean, you don't hear about it all that often. I'm sure it happens. I'm sure that there's plenty of scenarios or stories out there that can show you that that's the case. But, if you're going to go with a 105 chain as opposed to like a Ultegra or Durace chain because of a few grams, that's not a big deal. And if you got to save the money, that's fine. If you got to run some gator skin tires, that's fine. If you need to run some alloy wheels as opposed to carbon wheels, that's fine. You just got to have to learn how to make that up somewhere else in the race if you can.
Yeah, 100% agree. And I think that all of us on the podcast are super guilty of having really nice things when we would be probably perfectly okay with an aluminum bike with 105 components. Mm-hmm. I really think all of us could be fine on those bikes.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I always tell people you
put your penny where your passion is.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Pension where your passion is. So
and I think it's like, disposable income. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But we would, I mean, maybe not Lance. Lance might not be able to deal with an aluminum frame, but he could suffer through it.
Where are you guys most guilty of being procrastinators?
General cleaning.
I think so.
I'm sure I could extend the life. I was much better at that when I worked in a bike shop. I could definitely extend out the life of some of my parts, but I also ride 4 different bikes now.
Yeah.
So I'm spreading out my miles a lot more. Like my race bike gets touched once every 2 weeks now.
Yeah, you don't ride that much. Mm-hmm. It gets under my skin and it like drives me crazy when I put my own bike away like wet and gross.
Yes, I agree.
Like that just like
I will
kills
always,
me.
If it's in the rain, I will clean the chain
wipe
at least and
do a wipe
lube it
down.
right after. Yeah.
I usually will, if it's a wet, raining red like that, I will actually spray my bike off just to get the crap off that's on
I need
there.
to do that more.
Yeah.
Get out the
I usually wait a day or two
compressor.
and then I like alcohol wipe it all down and I'm like, why am I giving myself this headache 2 days later when I could just spray this thing off right after?
Just get her done. So that's a good one. Now, when you say like just not cleaning your bike, we're not talking about just wiping on the frame. We're talking about drivetrain components. We're talking about chains and
brake
rings.
pads. I'm bad. I will ride a brake pad down till I'm sure it's bad.
Till it's not safe.
Speaking of that, I will be bringing in my road bike here soon.
How about you, Lance?
Yeah.
He's gone.
Is Lance not there anymore?
I'm here. I'm just I've been tasked with something. I'm delivering my wife to a different position in town, and so. What was the question?
Town? What town are you?
What are you guilty of when it comes to procrastination?
The biggest thing is not replacing the replaceable parts quick enough.
Gotcha.
Chains, brake pads, and tires. Those are the things that I procrastinate more than anything because
definitely got better at tires.
Tires
for you, Lance. You need to be on tires, man, because you ride more different surfaces than anybody I know.
I do ride a lot, and I go through a lot of tires every year too. Lots of different types of tires: road tires, mountain bike tires, gravel tires, all that stuff. But I was in the same position that Jake was when he noticed that he had some chunks missing out of his rear tire. I looked at mine, and I had a few chunks missing in mine as well. But I was about ready to leave on a trip, and so I changed my tire already because I don't have a pair of Hunt wheels lost in the mail anywhere.
Now, have any of you guys found yourself in a bad position or a sticky situation or a crash because of ignorance?
Stem of my Trek bike.
Now, was that your fault though? Is that something that you should?
I think I should.
I mean, it was like an older bike that had sweat erosion on it, but
it had a sweat erosion.
Not.
It should have been fixed and replaced, and you know,
still, yeah.
The problem with it is it's just like covered up, so it was hard to see that particular corrosion issue. But yeah, I mean, but
a corrosion issue should not like break a frame at some, unless that bike's like 20. I mean, but there are bikes 20, 30, 40 years old.
We're staring at a bike
we're staring at a bike that's well
perfect.
within that. Yeah.
But no, I mean,
also steel.
It's still, I mean, had I caught that and changed it, I wouldn't have had the crash. So there's that.
Yeah.
True. What about you, Evan?
I think I had my chunk that's still missing from my elbow was from a crash with Dustin when we were on a gravel ride. And yeah, we hit car oil, but to be honest, like those tires I had on that cross bike were getting pretty old. Mm-hmm. So that might have been my fault.
Wasn't that more of a function of you needing to change your contacts?
Actually, yeah. That's the other part that I definitely needed to change. Was my contact prescription was very old. Regardless, even Dustin would defend me on this one. That car oil, the way the shading from the trees worked.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Dustin couldn't even tell there was car oil. I hit it and I couldn't even tell you what happened. I hit the old noggin super hard and don't remember too much of it.
Super
so
scary.
that was, yeah, that was a high speed too. That was like, it was almost, I don't know if it was good that it was that high speed, but like sometimes those higher speed ones happen so fast, just like you don't even know what really happened.
Damn.
But that one was... That one probably I could have picked a better line.
Or maybe you hit your head and you don't even know what happened, right?
I think it was, as Jake knows, you get a few of those knocks on the head. You start to go real blurry on crashes, but that was...
I've had some Vittoria tires that I should probably have never... I don't know what is with
like
Vittoria tires. I'm just...
The Corsas?
I wanted those tires to be fast, and I probably just like on a single 20-mile ride changing your tires like 3 times, changing tubes, you're like, okay, these are a problem.
They're fast, but you
can't use them.
Yeah,
they're
exactly.
fast as long as you don't. If you want to look at them,
yep,
they're great. Or maybe on the track or something.
I do like the P0s though from Pirelli.
Yeah,
I'm choosing between those two right now.
Victoria's coming out with a new tire. I think I'm allowed to tell you this, but it's
top
kind of
secret.
Well,
news.
It's kind of like was it the Rubino, and then there's the Corsa, and then they're gonna have something, a tubeless one that's gonna be right in the middle. It's gonna have a lot of the robustness of the Rubino, but it's gonna have the speed and the lightness of the Corsa.
I'm willing to try them again, but they've already got like 2 strikes. They've got 3 strikes. They're already out. But like, hey, we'll try them again. We'll try them again if they want.
Yeah, I met with those guys last week, so hopefully that'll be coming through to check out. I told them I wanted to see a set before we did anything with them. So
yeah, I know a ton of people that ride Vittoria and they love them, and that's great. It's just I've had bad luck with it, and so it's one of those things where it's like a little untrustworthy.
Sure,
we'll just leave it like that. Untrustworthy.
Lance, you got any stories of equipment stuff gone bad because you screwed up?
I sure do. I was in St. George, Utah, like a year and a half ago, riding my gravel bike, and my shifter had not been shifting very well, and I was just ignoring it. And my chain was appearing to be a little loose, but I also just ignored it. And I got 30 miles away from anywhere, and my shifter, the shifting cogs actually in my shifter ended up snapping, and it caused my chain to suck and twist. So like I ruined my chain in the middle of a ride where I had no cell service. So it was kind of a hike to where I could get cell service, to call my buddy to say, can you come save me? I'm up some canyon road somewhere.
You're up shit
and
creek without a paddle.
I definitely was. I was in a bad spot. And part of it because I was ignoring issues with my shifter and my chain because I just wanted to ride my bike. I didn't want to maintain it. That's not the right idea. Yeah.
I think for me, the only time that I can think of that I had an actual mishap, didn't go down, but it was pretty stinking close, but I did hurt myself a little bit, and it was because I didn't change out my cleats. My cleats I knew were a little bit worn.
Yeah.
We got out to do a little
We haven't
sprint.
talked about. I'm terrible with cleats.
That's one that I neglect too.
The left cleat came unclipped and my knee hit. We talked about this last week with the webinar thing. My knee went right into the stem and it like split my knee open and it was super bruised and it was bleeding and I was like felt like an idiot. But I didn't go down thankfully. But
didn't Thibaut Pinot leave the tour one year because of something like that too?
I don't know, maybe.
I think he banged his knee against his top tube and like had to pull out of the tour.
So that's one of those things too that you don't want to screw around with, especially if you're the sprinter type. If you like to get out of the saddle and sprint and all of a sudden your foot comes flying out, that happened to Lance on the flogging ride a year or two ago. He got out to he got out to go to one of the stop ahead signs and his foot came out and he stayed on the bike, but I think he landed on the top tube and sang a few octaves higher.
Oh man,
remember that, Lance?
I did rack some berries on the top tube. Yes, I did.
My little brother on my bachelor party trip, we were out mountain biking. He loves mountain biking. We were descending. He's hopping all the potholes and pulls his foot out on one bunny hop and just racks himself and goes down hard.
Yeah,
ripped all the skin off his arm.
I used the Crank Brothers for my mountain bike and for my gravel bike, and the cleats that I have on there. You should change those things out. Somewhat frequently. They wear down, but they last a long time.
I was gonna say, I think I have the same pair, the first one ever, type that I've.
So you're saying I should not replace those before Telluride.
They're metal, right?
Yeah, they're brass, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So I was talking with Paul about this last week because somebody came in and wanted to pick some up, and I'm like, I got to thinking about this, and I finally had a little issue where it did kind of come unclipped a little bit when we were doing our gravel ride last week. I'm like, I should probably change those out. And I'm like, you want to know why? I got those shoes that I was wearing, that I've been wearing. Yeah. I bought those in 2016. And those shoes I've used for every single gravel ride and mountain bike ride. Yeah. That's a lot of rides over the course of all those years, and I've not changed the cleats out one time.
I probably need to do that on mine here
That's a testament of them lasting a long time, but in the same breath, I should have changed those things out a couple of years ago. I probably should have gone through a couple sets of cleats by now, but,
Can you even get those cleats off the shoes anymore?
That's always the thing that I'm worried. I think that's why I don't change it, is because I'm so nervous. I'm like, man, I'm going to strip these, trying to change these every time.
I'll get them out. But that's just another one of those wear parts. And so the moral of the story is, folks, wear parts, wear out, and don't try and squeeze every last drop of life out of those things. It's really not worth it at the end of the day. I mean, it could be something mundane. It's like you lost a little bit of skin, but
all of us being people, everybody here has had some major crash at some point, some more so, but we have all had major crashes. Yeah, that's not worth it. Yeah. There's no amount of money savings that's worth going down at 35 miles an hour.
And if you're riding an electronic bike, make sure that your battery's topped off. And if you're riding SRAM, spring the extra $55 or $60, whatever it costs to buy an extra battery, and just take it with you. You don't want to be out there in the middle of nowhere.
I'm bad about that too. That's another thing I'm bad about.
Do you have extra batteries right now?
Oh, yeah.
That happened to me yesterday.
I actually need to buy some from you, like right now. No lie, as we're talking about that.
This is going to cost, this podcast costs a lot of money. Like all the stuff that we need. I'm like, I need tires.
This was clever from Jake here.
This was clever.
What were you saying, Lance?
That happened to me yesterday because I hadn't ridden my road bike in quite some time, like 3 or 4 weeks, because I've been riding gravel and mountain. I took my road bike out yesterday, and sure enough, right on the first climb, that front battery died. So I had to pull over, and luckily I had my extra battery with me that I could swap out.
Oh, wow.
So,
yeah. And you don't want to be out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, just service your bike. Know what's going on with it. Maybe consider like, hey, I haven't put new shift cables in here if you're running mechanical in like a couple dozen years or whatever, if it's been forever and a day, or if it's even just been a few years. Those aren't very expensive. I think a new cable's like $5 or $6. And if you don't have the wherewithal to put that in there, your shop's not going to charge you too much unless you've got a highly complicated internal routing. But get those things changed out as well, because the last thing you want to do is be out in the middle of nowhere and broken shift cable and you're one buying it all the way home.
Or be on your way into T2 at Blue Lake Triathlon trying to extend your gap and batteries run out.
So all the consumable parts, no one understand those. Oh, and change out the batteries on your E-tap shifters too. Those are only good for about 2 years.
Yeah, that's so.
Those little CR 2032s. So
I think I'm pretty sure my TT bike. I think my front ones, the aero bar ones.
Yeah.
Need the. I just replaced the base bar. I need that
one
for the. Well, yours, you've got the little blips on your TT bike.
Yeah, it's blip.
And so that goes into the junction box, and the junction box is probably what needs to have the battery put in there.
Gotcha. Okay. Then it's got to be the junction box. Yeah. Okay. Because it's still good, but then sometimes it goes out. So I'm guessing, and it's not the cables like it's been before. The cable connection's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the shifters, I remember that, like, what was it? last year, if I'm not mistaken.
It's so long you just forget.
Yeah, but they last about 2 years if you're riding pretty regularly.
Yeah.
And mine
Lisa Worms nailed that because she has me. She's like, "Do you change out your blip batteries?" And I messaged her back. I was like, "I'm not even sure if there are batteries in there because I'd had the bike now for 2 years on the dot."
Yep.
Hers went out. No lie, like a week after she messaged me that. Both mine went out. I'm like, Lisa Worms literally predicted that on when that was going to happen to me.
Know your brake pads too. Like know how to take them out, know how to look at them, know how to understand how much life is left in them. The other thing is your rotors. Those don't last forever. If you're running disc brakes, it'll be like etched into the side of them. It'll tell you what the thickness, the minimum allowed thickness is, and you can get some digital calipers. They're not terribly expensive, and you can measure those. And if it gets too thin, you don't want to be riding on those. You don't want that to fail on you when you're bombing down a hill. No. So
brakes are important.
That's interesting, actually.
A little bit, yeah. So just all these little things. And I want people to think about this stuff because we're in summertime. We're out there doing these rides. We're going to go do long rides. We're going to do challenging rides. We're going to do all the things. I don't want people to get hurt.
Oh, yeah.
So
or run out of gears on a climb. Yeah.
Anything else on this topic, guys?
That's it.
Sweet. Let's move on to one last thing. Who wants to go first?
Mr. Price.
I got some bad news for my one last thing.
Okay.
Ruh-roh.
I will not make this a complaint fest about Iron Man. But I don't like Iron Man very much, to be completely honest. But as they say, beggars cannot be choosers. And I'm definitely a beggar. And I will still do Iron Man races because unfortunately for me in pro fields, that is where all of us race right now.
Okay, go ahead.
But next year, I will be having quite a few races that are not Iron Man, which is going to be great and exciting. So I'm shifting a lot of my schedule away. I will most likely not be racing in Salem because I waited until the day after my wedding to message them to put me on the start list because I did not know, that was always the plan for me. It was like, wait till after the wedding, see how I feel, and then jump into the race. Apparently their 2020 rule that is they allowed us in very late into races. Basically, you could just message them and be like, hey, I want to be on the list. That policy apparently ended unbeknownst to any of us. They did not tell us. That's shocking that Iron Man would not inform you of something.
What is the big friggin' deal? I mean, it's not like...
Dude, I trust. Oh, so you want to know what the deal is they printed the pro start list the day before. They didn't want to add a name. And not just my name. So I don't matter. I'm middle
things
of
out these days. It's digital. Just add it to something.
They're terrible.
Disclaimer at the bottom, subject to change. Check the online.
Iron Man loves hiring people that I'm sure are terrible at their jobs. Because who would ever want to work for that company? Nobody would want to work for that company.
I'm sorry if you work for the government, but are they hiring government employees?
I think so. I'm pretty sure this is all bureaucracy. Yeah. But and this is excluding race directors. So understand that Iron Man puts on races. They have race directors that are local usually to those areas and put on the races.
Sure.
Those people, some of them are great. And I've met some of them and they're wonderful people. And the volunteers are all amazing. But here's the big corporation issue is people who are actually Iron Man people are running an absolute S show. I mean, they absolutely are.
This is in Tampa or wherever their headquarters
is. Exactly. Yeah. I know. I almost looked up this woman's phone number who's the one.
To call you.
So me and the few other pros now that are locked out of Salem for absolutely no reason outside that they don't want to change the start list. And there are a few of us because there was an Iron Man race. Full Ironman, a week before or that same weekend. And there were guys that wanted to wait till after that race, reasonably so, to see how's my body feel? Okay, now let's say I want to do this race in 2 weeks. So we're all locked out of the race. But I mean, it sucks. At the end of the day, it's that's okay. I still got 3 races going through the end of the year.
Could you pay for the race and do it as a non-pro?
I could, but I'm not going to do that.
It's do that plus the money that you already paid to be a pro.
I know.
Doesn't make any sense.
That was her other suggestion to me. She's like, don't worry. At the end of the year, we'll refund you for anything that you didn't use. I was like, or you could just let me into this race. That's
what?
Yeah. She was saying, in fairness to everyone else, is how she phrased it. I cannot allow a singular exception. Unless I'm Lionel Sanders, and then I'm sure that there'd be a real easy singular exception.
Singular exception, no problem.
I mean, I sent her a pretty stern email back just talking about, I'm like, I don't know what fairness you're talking about because I pay for all of my own travel, all of my own amenities. You guys supply nothing for us, and I pay you each year to race in your quote-unquote pro fields. Mm-hmm. What fairness are we talking about here? If I was an employee of yours and you were like, hey, there was a deadline for this sign-up and you missed it, that's on you, then okay. But you don't pay me $1. I am not an employee of Iron Man. Mm-hmm. On any planet, I am not an employee of Iron Man. So the fact that they can't make a small, it's obviously something that bothers me, but it's also something that bothers me because I even hear some I hope people listening to this who know me well know that the pro field does not get any like perks. Like we don't get perks.
Yeah.
We get a transition rack that's slightly closer to the T2 exit because we're like trying to go fast. That is about it. Like we really don't get anything. We don't get they're not giving us a travel expense, thing. There's nothing going on. There's no stipend. So anybody who's like, oh man, the pros are so spoiled with like what they get and all this. It's like, no, we're not. We also pay for like a yearly race stuff. We're saving maybe $400 a year on races at most. So it's frustrating because this is a local race and I would love to be able to do it, but it's okay. Santa Cruz is the next one.
There's no way to go above this lady.
Oh, I've tried. I have been. She has not responded to my last 3 emails. A couple buddies of mine who are in the pro race have been adding. I don't know, like whatever you do on Instagram, like tagging Ironman, saying like let Evan race.
Do we need to make a hashtag right now and ask all the people that listen to this to?
It'd be funny. Go for it, guys. Bombard them. I could care less. But also, they did like ban Starkowitz from like some stuff because
he's a big name. I mean,
Iron Man is like super like butthurt about their feelings with everything. Like they don't like being told that they're bad at what they do because they are terrible at what they do. Mm-hmm. So like that's the only reason I'm not like I've sent this woman now 2 emails and I'm not going to continue to bombard her because probably the next email I'm going to be getting is like you have a year-long penalty and you won't be allowed to or you're not allowed to race in our races because you hurt my feelings.
Oh, I'm sorry, dude.
It's one of those things where it's very interesting to be like, oh, I love Iron Man. I'm proud of wearing Iron Man shirts with the races that I've done. There's little bits of it that I love, and then there's the separate piece where it's like, no, I hate Iron Man, the company.
Yeah,
like I don't like the corporation at all. I think they're horrible.
Iron Man,
the
culture and what it has done for triathlon, I think is amazing. And it's even being in Kona, weird. It was very cool because it's like you get to see it really what I consider a birthplace of it, and it's amazing. Yep. But I completely agree with you, guys. The way this company's operated right now is awful.
They need to be. Yeah. They need to be dissolved, and someone needs to snag the
restart
name.
Over, and they should only be hiring people who are involved in the sport.
Well, I think if the PTO could have purchased the brand. It's the brand, right? Like the brand there's nothing wrong with the name Iron Man. I mean, other than there's a Marvel bit to it that Marvel technically
aren't
owns.
they losing that?
No, so
they leased it, didn't they?
They lease it. They always lease it. They've never owned it.
Yeah.
So it's weird, but anyway, but the corporation doesn't do their job well.
Nope.
Some other things that really annoy me.
There are good people who put on the races and are involved in the races, but everybody above that is awful at their job. So yeah.
Bummer.
In solidarity with Evan, I also will not be racing Ironman.
I appreciate you, Lance. Lance, we can do our own race together. Don't worry.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm definitely not racing Ironman 2022. So maybe I'll hold out for a long time.
Yeah.
To show my support.
Oh, I'm
Price.
probably half of my race schedule next year will be off of Ironman. Actually, I'll be doing a lot of PTO races next year.
I was going to say, what kind of race schedule does PTO have out there?
I'll be doing, so I'm not, they change around what they sponsor, but races that are non-PTO, I'll be doing LA Triathlon, St. Anthony's, and White Lake next year.
Cool.
Sweet.
3 races that are not Ironman branded.
Cool.
Yep.
Hey, Matt, one last thing.
I posted a video yesterday.
Oh, that's right. I saw that. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet.
How's
it doing?
It's a watch video, 955 versus the Epix watch, which is going to be interesting. And I put in there because I made fun of Garmin for like having a watch strap that they designed specifically to be hard to change. It's very awkward. And so I put in some sort of like clip about like what it was like when they were deciding on they had some sort of meeting and they're trying to decide on the watch clip. And one of the new guys is like, we should just use the Epix, quick fit strap. It's super easy. You just snap it on, snap it off, and he gets fired, of course. And then some other guy's like, oh, what if we didn't have any way to change it, like made it really hard, like everything's underneath the strap. And, of course they're like, brilliant, Anyway, it's my attempt at being funny on the YouTubes.
You're nailing it.
So that video is worth checking out.
Sweet.
Yep.
Mr. Epler, you got any one last things for us?
That's big.
I was on mute. Sorry. I muted myself because sometimes I'm sick of listening to myself. My one last thing is that I won't be racing any Ironman races in the next coming year.
Okay, think about it though.
But are you coming back home at any point soon, Lance?
That's also a question I am not at liberty to discuss. I don't know.
Don't know.
Okay, if you do though, before Telluride, I'm doing a really big long mountain bikey day. Me, David, and maybe Jake and Paul want to come too.
Where?
We're gonna do Grass Vista, trying 2 loops.
Grouse Vista?
Grouse Vista.
Okay, just on the gravel roads?
Well, like the ride to, they're just add miles, but yeah.
So once you get up to Grouse Vista, are there mountain bike trails or are those hiking trails?
There are mountain bike trail options out there.
Okay, so
we can piece together.
You're doing that. Are you sure doing that, or are you doing the Tarbell system?
I think it was Grouse Vista. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
David has the planned out route. I can send it to you.
Sweet.
It's going to be in like 2 or 3 weeks, I think.
So
yeah.
2 laps of that. How many laps is each?
I think it's going to end up being about 70 miles and about 8K of climbing.
Wow.
I think total.
Chunky day.
Yeah, chunky day, definitely.
Sweet.
Be the longest one in the saddle.
Yeah. I rode my mountain bike with Matt yesterday, and that was the first time I touched my mountain bike since last September.
Nice.
It was
still works.
Still works. Yeah, it was all tuned and flawless. It was just seat height was a little off because I let somebody else borrow it during that time. But I want to be able to do the short track series that's coming up here, and I haven't ridden the flat bar bike in a while, and that it's just a minor little thing. You go from that neutral position to like.
Completely agree. Yeah, my wrist gets super tired.
Yeah,
for some
it's the wrist, but
yeah.
it's just that translates up into my shoulder, and it just makes it not
that's
happy.
Internal
so.
rotation.
Was it okay today when you woke up?
Yeah, but we weren't on the bike for.
No, we were. Yeah, it was super.
Like an hour just dinking around a
so
little bit.
So it's set. Matt's coming too, and so are you, Lance. So we'll set down a date.
Sure.
Is that it, Lance?
I'll ride from the trailhead back down with you. That's
nice.
about it.
I'll take that.
My one last thing is we have the fantasy pool posted up for the Tour de France here with the podcast. It's posted up on our Facebook page.
I shall do it while I'm on the train.
It's in all of the little Facebook groups that we do, and I shared it with you guys if you guys want to share it out there to the world.
Cool.
But if you or anybody that wants to join us, it's open to the general public, and I think we can have up to 100 people come in there. You can join that by clicking the link if you just go to Dial Podcast on Facebook and use that link to get in. You can get yourself set up with a team and just have it ready to go before the 1st of July. That's this coming Friday. That's when the race starts. Should be fun. And I guess my other one last thing is I'm looking forward to going camping this weekend, so I'm stoked on that.
You're gonna miss the tour.
I am. I don't know if we're gonna have any cell service there, so there's a good chance that I might miss the first 2 days. I'll be back on Sunday. I'll watch at least the recap of it there. So cool. Anything else? You guys got anything else you want to throw out there? Y'all good?
I think that's good.
Good. Thanks for the podcast.
Yep.
Lance, glad to hear that you're doing better, bud.
Thank you.
All right, we will be back next week with another podcast, maybe 2. We'll see.
Yeah. I think I can make it happen. Since I'm not racing Salem, I got some time.
Perfect. And we appreciate everybody listening. We will catch up with you then. Until then, bye for now.